All right, we are live. Welcome to another Square and Compass live stream. Do these every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let me know if you guys can hear me, see me okay, all that good stuff. Today, we are going to be talking about online communities and building an online community with Freemasonry, something I am, to a certain extent, trying to do here for whatever that's worth. So let's give it a bit of time. But in the meantime, give it an hour or so, 30 minutes to an hour, see who joins us before we start, in the main part of this discussion. I'm trying this based on some prompts I got through the YouTube AI system because I figured it might be kind of a fun experiment to try that and see how it works and how people respond to the suggestions. Although in fairness, the idea of Freemasonry in the online or digital space is not a new idea. It's something that has been suggested to me that I discuss on more than a couple occasions. So, but please, if you are going to join us, when you do, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know how you're doing. I tried a new thumbnail as well, so we'll see how that goes. See if it gets people interested. In the meantime, though, hit like, subscribe, answer a poll question because today is St. Patrick's Day after all. So, happy St. Patrick's Day. There's actually some really interesting historical stuff from St. Patrick's Day, which I should probably share at some point on the socials. I have a newspapers.com account, which I love because you can find a lot of really interesting and really cool old Masonic clippings and news articles and stories all talking about St. Patrick's Day and Freemasonry, or things that Freemasons are doing for St. Patrick's Day, or anything you want to study. Like, if you're a Mason or a historian and you want to learn more about the history of Freemasonry, I would highly recommend you get a newspapers.com account, and you can do some clippings from all sorts of different times in history. Let me see, at least whenever there were newspapers, I should say. Let me see if I can track down the one I saw recently. Just trying to share this. Here it is. All right. Also, if your Masonic Lodge is doing anything for St. Patrick's Day, I'd love to know how they're doing or what they are doing, even if it's something as simple as a social media post. I'd still love to hear about it. You can let me know in the chat or in the comments. I always like to keep up to date on what other Masonic lodges are up to, what they're doing, how they're doing. Hey, Cameron, what a great topic. Happy St. Patty's. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well, Core. I hope that you're doing well. I saw that you did the interview with High Altitude Investing. I haven't seen the entire episode yet. I did share it, though, on some of my socials. So you must be very happy about that. It was great. I'm happy that I almost made it. I'm happy that you guys connected. So that is awesome to see. I like High high altitude investing and black raven meditation as well. And maybe what I can do is, if I get the chance, actually, before I forget, what I'll do is I'll find the link and maybe see if I can share it in 1 second in the chat, so you guys can find it. Is Black Raven Meditation and Core's interview with my friend from High Altitude Investing from his Wisdom in Christ Foundation podcast. Just, hey, Cameron, I'm going out for St. Patrick's Day just to downstairs for Irish stew. Nothing's wrong with that. Good for you. I hope that you enjoy the Irish stew. Who made it, if you don't mind my asking, Dad? By the way, you're going to see me in about a week, so I hope that you're prepared. Getting yourself ready to deal with Hurricane Cameron. Check out, by the way, so this is what I'm talking about. This is the type of thing, I mean, if you guys can see this well, that you can get with your newspapers.com account. Windsor's annual Windsor Police Association proudly present their 14th annual St. Patrick's Day dance. Fun for all, featuring all Edwards Orchestra. This was from like the 1940s, if I recall correctly. So just to show you that example of the historical, like the historical research you can do and learn about things that took place at and are taking place at Masonic temples, or did take place historically at Masonic temples. I think it's really, really cool. I did. Thank you for sharing. It was service meeting that wonderful. Dallin Zadita, good man. I'm grateful for your community for bringing us together. I am grateful that it brought you together, and I'm grateful that you're both a part of it. So keep up the good work, and don't forget the beautiful thing about being online and the online world is, if you're, don't have to be a Mason for that matter, but if you are interested in meditation and you live in Winnipeg or England or India or wherever it is you live, you can check out Black Raven Meditation. You can learn more about them and get in touch with them to learn how you can bring meditation into your world, including into your Masonic world. Did you know St. Patrick was born in Wales? I did not, but that is really cool. So thank you for sharing that, Dad. Much appreciated. By the way, I want to give a huge shout out, speaking of online communities, to the Wayfarer. He is from Blue Sky, but is kind enough to always on Blue Sky share my posts, which is truly appreciated. So thank you so much, Wayfarer. All right, as you know, normally I give it about 30 minutes to 45 minutes before I start on the main topic. Today's topic, building an online community. What that looks like, just some very general ideas. Honestly, this was kind of a topic generated through the YouTube AI algorithm because I'm curious, I want to try it and see if the algorithm is tapping into something that the audience may find interesting. I've never really done one based on an AI suggestion or prompt before, so I thought it would be fun to give it a shot and try it and see what it's like. Since I, for one, and this is just me personally, I'm not at all nervous or afraid of AI. I think it's going to be a good thing for the world. So I had a great time on Saturday with my midnight movie watch along. This time it was Leprechaun Part 3 because it's my favorite. And actually, this weekend I had a really great time at whatchamacallit, at St. Clair College for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Got a really great picture, actually, of me, which I shared on social media, but I'm going to share it again here just because I liked it so much. Just give me 1 second to track it down. And tonight, actually, I'm going out for St. Patrick's Day for dinner because afterwards I've got a Essex County Masonic District Association meeting, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'm just trying to, there it is, page. Trying to make sure I can share this quickly. I was, but first night I refereed the ladies. The second night I actually refereed the a men's tag match. So both were really fun. All right, let me see if I can finally pull this up, which I keep meaning to. Come on. Here we go. Let's see if I can share this. Just give me 1 second. Dun, dun, dun. This is on my socials, on my Facebook, I should say. I always like this. I like this picture when I saw it. Serena Deeb in there, one of the greats, and Aurora Teves, another great wrestler. This is another one. So Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, absolutely crushing it. Had an amazing show this weekend. So yeah, and that's me there. Win a better shot of this. There we go. That's a better shot of it. So congratulations, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, on an amazing show, and it was awesome to be part of it. I agree. It was cool. I mean, it was pretty cool to be there. That's for sure. It was felt pretty incredible to be part of the show. It always does, right? It's an honor to be part of professional wrestling in general, including being a referee. So not everybody gets the opportunity to do these things. So you should be grateful when you have these type of opportunities. It was a very busy weekend, but very, very fun as well. Don't use your sleeves as a Kleenex. Well, that's what happens when you get parents in the chat. Yeah, I got a bit of a, I don't know what to call it, cold flu thing happening. I'm doing all right, though. You get your parents in the chat, they start telling you not to. I don't have any Kleenex, so this is the best I got, unfortunately. All right, we're going to stop sharing the screen. So as always, give it a little bit of time. The first half hour to hour, I usually spend just hanging out, talking to people as they come on, chatting to them about whatever they want to chat about. And then about the 45-minute mark in, we start talking about our particular, topic. In today's case, it's going to be building online communities and kind of relying upon some of the prompts I got through YouTube to give it a shot and see if that creates a interesting or engaging episode for people, a live stream, I should say, for people. To those of you who are patrons, I haven't forgotten about you. This week, I do plan to finally send out for all the paid members, send out the correspondence that I promised, the postcards. So I want to make sure I do that before I head back home for the weekend. So just make sure you included your shipping address when you did your when you signed up, just make sure that you included your mailing address or shipping address so I can mail you those postcards. Obviously, I can send you correspondence via email, but there is something really nice and personal, the personal touch of getting an actual handwritten note, if that makes any sense. So I hope that you guys will check that out. Or like I said, double check to make sure. If you didn't, what I'll do is I'll send you a message just saying I need your address so that I can mail you your postcard. I have, I think, 5 people who are new signers since January that I need to send those postcards to. So it looks like actually 4. All right. But you'll get it soon, I promise. In the meantime, I'm happy that Dad is going out. I don't know, Cor, if you're doing anything for St. Patrick's Day. Let me know if you are. Actually, you might have found, Cor, something interesting. I'm not sure how much you know about it. I didn't know about it at all. It actually, one of the members of the chat suggested I look into it. But one thing I do want to do a discussion on more in depth, I did it last week, but I'm learning more every day, is the Chinese, um, I guess, mythological figures, Fuxi, I hope I pronounced that right, Fuxi, and Nuwa, Nuwa, who were the first, I guess, emperors of China. They were brother and sister and later became husband and wife. They were the first people, actually, in Chinese mythology. Nuwa created humans by molding them out of clay and mud and breathing life into them. And then Fuxi was the brother slash husband. He, um, I guess, brought them fishing and laws and order and marriage ceremonies. But what's also interesting is in depictions of Fuxi and Nuwa on different paintings and tapestries, Fuxi is holding a compass and Nuwa is holding a square. Or sorry, got it backwards. Fuxi is holding a square and Nuwa is holding a compass because in Chinese mythology, the compass represents the heavens and the square represents the earth, and Fuxi and Nuwa being together and each holding that represents the unity of the heavens and the earth, um, or a moral order to things. So it's fascinating how the square and compass mythology and symbolism exists, even as far back. It predates Freemasonry, which doesn't shock me. Um, to see that the square and the compass would find themselves being part of mythological symbolism. I mean, they're so important in the creation of buildings that naturally and as a consequence, they're going to become important in the mythological stories of a society. Like, I feel like that just makes sense. No, sir, not going out. Isn't You're smart. Isn't it funky how so many teachings make humans from clay? Yeah, clay or mud or a combination. You are definitely right. It seems like a lot of teachings start with humans out of some version of clay slash mud. Um, Also, the square and the circle. I feel it's far deeper than we may ever realize. Very, very possible. Very, very possible. And so yeah, so that kind of the depth of that, I think it'd be really fun to explore in greater detail. And so certainly that is my hope and my goal in the coming episodes. Maybe even get somebody on the Square and Compass podcast who is an expert in um, who is an expert in Chinese mythology to speak specifically about Fuxi Nuwa, how and why it is, like how, why they are important from a mythological perspective, um, how their mythologies shaped Chinese culture, and specifically and particularly how and why the square, the compass, and even the plum rule, which is also something Fuxi is holding, are so often associated with those two mythological figures. I think it might be worth exploring, because I am certainly no expert at all in Chinese mythology. But it's funny. Earlier on my streams, I'd been talking about and saying I wanted to um, explore more examples of stonemasonry outside of what is typically explored in Freemasonry, which is ancient Egypt and King Solomon's Temple. And my thoughts were I wanted to explore Mesoamerican stonemasonry, so Aztecs and Incas, as well as Celtic stonemasonry, including Stonehenge or Druidic. And this also makes me think I should probably devote some time to studying more about Chinese stonemasonry, or maybe Asian stonemasonry, which also I believe would have some really unique and valuable insights to share. Weren't the first bricks made of clay or alabaster? I would love to talk more about that mythology. It sounds fascinating. I agree. Well, the first bricks were made of mud. Yeah. Well, it was because, hold on one second. It was Nimrod from a biblical perspective. I'm not suggesting that the Bible is literal history. I don't believe that. But um, Nimrod was, in biblical terms, the first stonemason. He was a stonemason who constructed the Tower of Babel, or Babel. Um, and so, yeah, it was composed of. So the first bricks that he used were um, used clay that were dried or hardened in the sun. Um, Bitumen or slime was used as mortar or cement to bind the bricks together. Which makes sense. I think they also used that and like hemp or hay or straw as well to put it all together or to bind it. So I remember talking to Courtney Duffy, who's been on here before. I'm sure he'll be back, and he was saying, it would have been so fascinating to see some of these first time uh, stonemasons, before even stones were used for building towers, seeing those first bricks made out of clay and mud, which I agree, I think would have been very cool. Nimrod, a great name, just a side thought. Well, I mean, it's funny because growing up, Nimrod was an insult. Like you'd call somebody Nimrod if you thought they were kind of stupid or or silly. But now apparently Nimrod was actually a biblical name meaning, the first stonemason, the first architect of the Tower of Babel. So it's funny how things change over time. Um, but yeah, when I grew up, I didn't even know Nimrod was an actual any type of reference to the Bible. I always thought it was a reference to just a foolish person. All right. Let me just share this link in a couple spots quickly. We will start the discussion in about 20 minutes or so. We'll see who else joins us. If you're just joining us, though, please don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to talk about. Even if you're not doing anything else for St. Patrick's Day, maybe you can hang out tonight and watch some the Leprechaun movies, which I think are great movies. Very underrated, in my humble opinion. I think I've told this story a couple times, so forgive me for chewing my food twice. But while we wait for more people to join, um, when I was staying in Toronto, this was too long ago to think about, to be perfectly honest. Um, I was staying in a hostel with a group of friends in Toronto, and this was a hostel that was, had people from all over the world, um, and a lot of people who didn't speak English. If I recall correctly, there were some people there from Germany. I remember England particularly, who they spoke English obviously, but we had Germans there, some Asian people, I think Japan, who didn't speak English, and me and my friends, we went to a local video rental place, which is aging the heck out of me. We rented VHS tapes, and for anybody on this stream who's a child, VHS tapes were what you had before DVDs. And if you don't know what a DVD is, then I can't help you at all to save my life, because if you're just streaming or whatever it is. But we rented VHS tapes. We took them back to the hostel. We rented Leprechaun Part 2, which is a great, stupid, scary movie, and Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. And we put them on in the common room in the VCR. And the whole hostel came and hang out and watched them with us. And absolutely, even the people who didn't speak English, I remember the Japanese guys were watching it, they all laughed and thought it was great and had a great time watching it and hanging out and screaming at the scary parts and laughing at the funny parts and the combination of both. It's one of those things where, like, I feel like the horror movies, particularly the slasher flicks of the Nightmares on Elm Streets, the Fridays, the Jasons, the Leprechauns, the Chuckies, they're like they have a universal quality to them that um, I think a lot of other movies don't. Certainly more universal than, say, like a romantic comedy. I think everybody, you don't even have to speak the language to watch it, to get it, and to enjoy it. In my humble opinion, Nimrod to me is an idiot. That's what it was to me growing up too. But I did learn, in the past year what it actually meant. Happy St. Patrick's Day, chat. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Courtney. Thank you so much for being here. Truly, truly appreciated. Interestingly, 5 votes. Are you aware for St. Patrick's Day? Looks like 3 yeses, 2 nos. The people who said yes, let me know what it is you're going to be doing for St. Patrick's Day. If you have nothing to do and you want to hang out with me tonight, maybe we can watch a scary movie or Leprechaun movie on my personal channel. Maybe watch another one of the Leprechaun movies. Who knows? I have a meeting tonight, so at Essex Masonic Temple, so I'm going to be kind of busy, but I may have a few minutes. Let's see, drinking green beer. Well, I don't drink, but I know a few people do. And Dad, if you want to maybe put some food coloring in your beer, I feel like I would think that the I feel like the Irish are pretty strict about their beer, so I'm surprised that they would be cool with people putting green food dye in their beer. But that should be my poll question. Do you like drinking green beer? That's what I should have been asking about. Thank you, Core. Yes. Thank you, Core, indeed. So, everybody, if you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It went really well. I don't know if you saw, but I'll share it one more time, maybe. See if I can find it again quickly. Because we still got time before we start on our main topic today. Um, If I could track it down, let's see. Well, here's a bunch of pictures from, but I'll be lazy and show you my picture. Here we go. People in Ireland don't drink green beer; they drink Guinness. Yeah, and I feel like Guinness is so thick it'd be hard to turn into green beer. Let's see. Speaking of how the event went, let me know if stream. But this is how the event went. So that's me in the background there. Remo Agostino taking some great pictures. And that was at St. Clair College, which, by the way, is an awesome spot. One of the best. I've become kind of a home away from home for me when it comes to places in Windsor. I'm there all the time. Well, not all the time, but I'm there at least a few times a year. It feels like for wrestling. So. Thank you so much. I'm a fan of this picture as well. Meantime, I hope everybody is doing well here in the chat. Please, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it is you guys are doing and what it is you want to talk about. And jump in the chat. That's Irish Shamrock comes from the Holy Trinity. Well, I feel like the other way around, right? The Shamrock came first, and then they put the Holy Trinity onto it. I don't know how old the Shamrock is, or was it specifically bred for some reason, right? I would have assumed the Shamrock came first. All right, I'm just going to give it a bit. Like I said, we'll give it another 10 minutes, then we'll start in today's topic, which is building an online community, or from data blocks, or from stone blocks to data blocks, which was actually a title suggested to me by another audience member or community member. Oh, actually, that's what I want to do, though. Before I do anything else, I am going to, Core, if you're still there, I'm not sure if high altitude investing is here or not, but let me make sure I share in the chat the link to Wisdom in Christ Foundation. Small channel right now, but Dallin's a really cool dude, and it is growing. All right. We're going to share. Here we go. Should be able to see this. This is the link to the episode with Core and Dallin. from the Wisdom in Christ Foundation podcast. So you should be able to click on that link. If you can, let me know. Either way, just type in um, Wisdom in Christ Foundation Black River Meditation, and you should be able to find the episode. It's a really great one. And as always, check out Black River Meditation, check out Wisdom in Christ Foundation, and check out High Altitude Investing. And check out my episode with them as well, but make sure to check out Core's also. And I am very, very excited about next week. I've said it a million times. I think of myself as a traveler, um, a professional traveler. It's my favorite thing to do. If I could, my dream life would be living like Jack Reacher from those Lee Child novels, where he just kind of travels from town to town without a home or anything like that. That sounds like a wonderful way to live to me. So I love to travel, and I'll be traveling again next week. This Saturday, actually, head back home to Winnipeg. Going to go to a first degree at Kilcona Lodge, and then going to head up Chicago and head to a second degree at King Oscar Lodge, followed by a temple, special temple, or Gale Street or Jefferson Masonic Temple fundraiser, and see some awesome Masonic brothers. And it's going to be really special and really fun. So I'm looking forward to it. Give me a bus to nowhere any day of the week, and that's what I want to be on. I agree, Courtney. I'm very happy the fact that we've all been able to link up on the streams. I think that makes it awesome. I'm loving the community that we've got growing. Obviously, I hope that it continues to grow and expand. That would be really special. But having said that, I'm honored that I have the stream that I do have. So, and the community that I do have. It's wonderful. Dad was asking, so since we were talking about Dallin and high altitude investing, I'll say, in case people are curious, after I did my podcast with them, I invested in cryptocurrency just for fun. I invested $70 because the rule is, and I truly believe it, don't ever, invest with money you can't afford to lose. So of course, I stuck to 70. That's all I'm going to invest. And so far, that $70 I invested is worth $62. So I've lost $8 whole dollars so far. But I'm in no rush. I'm just going to keep it in there my plan is to keep it in there for 5 years, because I'm just curious to see what's going to happen and then go from there. So I'm not going to touch it. I'll look at it here and there, but I have no plan to take it out or anything for 5 years, because I'm just curious to see what's going to happen to it. I think historically and over time, things always tend to go up when it comes to these type of stocks or whatever it is, even if it's in crypto. Yes, that's awesome. I agree. It is awesome. Welcome. If you're just joining us, by the way, please hit the like and subscribe button. Today's episode is about building an online community, something which I'm happy to say this Square and Compass has been doing a little bit of, and it's been going great. But I'm giving it 5 more minutes. The first first 30 minutes to an hour is spent just hanging out, chatting with people, talking to them about anything they're interested in. Courtney brought up Irish soda bread, which is, I do believe, one of the more common things you see being eaten on St. Patrick's Day, along with stew. Mostly what is eaten on St. Patrick's Day is beer. Most people end up, I think, enjoying the beer on St. Patrick's Day twice. Once on the way down and once on the way back up, I think. Not to be too graphic about anything. That is one vice, though. Not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I never have been a drinker myself. Having said that, though, if you are going to be drinking, just make sure you are responsible. Don't drink and drive. Don't be foolish. Don't make stupid decisions, etc., etc. Be smart. We don't want anybody either getting hurt themselves or hurting anybody else. So be smart if you're going out tonight to drink. Actually, there's a lot of Freemasons who are involved with groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And actually, I know some Masons who even done things like they organize safe drives and safe trips, or they'll make sure they remain designated like a sober. So at the end of a lodge meeting, if there's a bunch of people who need rides, they know a few people who can give them rides because they didn't drink themselves to make sure their friends could have a good time. Do stuff like that. Be good. Be good. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Let me know how you're doing, what you want to talk about. Today's live stream discussion is building an online community. We're going to talk about it specifically as it relates to Freemasonry, but that doesn't mean if there's anything you want to talk about, please jump in the chat, say hello, and let me know what you want to chat about. Good, bad, and different. If you have positive views on Freemasonry, great. I like to hear them. If you have negative views on Freemasonry, no worries. I'd love to hear those as well. And if you don't know what Freemasonry is at all, jump in the chat. Let me know that you don't know what it's all about, and we'll go from there. But I'm going to end this poll in exactly 4 minutes. Then I'm going to start with a new poll. And that poll will be related to today's topic, which is going to be, like I said, building an online community from stone blocks to data blocks. I suppose what I could do, or what I should do, is ask the poll question, is it okay to use ones? Actually, that's what I'm going to do, because I got a few minutes left before I start today's topic, and my dad brought this up. One of the dangers of having a parent in the chat. Because I have a bit of a cold, flu. I don't know what I've got. I feel okay, but definitely feel like I got something. But my dad saw me using my sleeve to wipe my nose. He's got in the chat, said, don't use your sleeve as a Kleenex. So I'm going to ask the poll question. Is it okay to use your sleeve as a Kleenex? We got one vote for no so far. All right. So far, the parents are jumping in there and answering the poll question quickly. Keep in mind though, you were 2 no's. Keep in mind though, we were once kids, just for the record. Don't let your, just because we're all older now. Look, we got 1 yes. All right. Thank you to the person who said yes. We got 1 person on my side at least. All right, we're going to give this 50-50. Look at that. The young people, the non-parents are coming back. Though. I'm so there's we got some young cool people in this stream. We haven't all, it's the old people. Although it's funny, I say that. I'm always talking about like you need to get vaccinated, and all that jazz, and how important it is to take care of your health. And here I am advocating for using your sleeve as a Kleenex. But if I'm gonna be, mostly healthy, then every now and then I get to be unhealthy. Core, just get a tissue, But the sleeve is right there. Like it's right here. I remember way back in the day at work when I had a real job, if you want to call it that. I had like a new sweater, and I came into my office, and I had a female colleague, was an office mate. She said, like, nice sweater. I said thanks. And then I spilt my coffee or something, and then I used my sleeve to like wipe up the coffee that I spilt, and then she got mad at me for ruining a perfectly good sweater. But again, I was like, the sleeve is right there, so I'm not going to go and I'm not going to go all the way and get a paper towel when I have a sleeve right here that works perfectly well. And then you just roll up the sleeve so it's not wet anymore on your forearm, and you're all set, in my humble opinion. But no, it's going to be a fun trip. going to be a fun trip back home. Down, looking forward to it. Looking forward to, amongst other things, the we got those occupational therapist sessions booked, and then we've got a first degree, which is going to be a blast. The trip is going to affect when I can do my when we can do the live streams next week, because I will be traveling so much, but I am going to make sure to keep posting on social media what I will be doing and when, and I may be emphasizing more written content. I'm actually working on a medium story about Masonic symbolism in Lost, which is the TV show from the mid 2000s that I loved. I've rewatched it since I got my Disney Plus subscription, and so I may finally get that published. Similar to what Peter wrote for me once about Masonic symbolism in Westworld and Masonic symbolism in the Matrix movies. You have a whole system to sleeve tissues. Brilliant. I do. I do. See, the system is you wipe. See, you wipe on the bottom part. Like you go like this. So you put it this way, right? And then if it's your nose, you do it from the top. But if you just if something spills, what you do is you wipe on the bottom, right? Um, and then if it's really wet, you just roll it up so it keeps your arm dry, right? And then slowly, it eventually dries over time. Like by a couple hours in, it's dry. Then you can put it back down again. And then if you need, then it's right back. So I have a whole system and it works great. And it's a good thing my mom has passed away, or she would be, well, I'm sure she's listening to this right now and is spinning in her grave. Um, to hear me saying these things. She taught me she's not her fault. She did the best she could to deal with me. It wasn't easy having me as a son, as you can imagine from my whole sleeve system. It wasn't easy for her. I remember when she came to visit me back in law school, I think it was. So many, many moons ago. And my wheelchair was kind of destroyed at the time because I don't take good care of them. Uh, and she saw the shape it was in, and it was around my friends, and she said, everybody's going to think I'm a terrible mother. And my friends all said, no, we think you're a saint to put up with your son. You must have the patience of an angel, they told her, to deal with your foolish son. And she definitely had to have that much patience to deal with me, that's for sure. All right, so what other podcasts you listen to? What do you enjoy about them? Good question, Courtney. I don't listen to a ton anymore just because I don't have any time. I mean, obviously, I got to give a shout out to High Altitude Investing and Wisdom in Christ Foundation and even Core's work. It's not really a podcast per se. Her stuff is more live streams, but she's been doing some really interesting, like 2-minute meditations, which I would suggest checking out. That's Black Raven Meditation, and I have those podcasts. Masonic podcast wise, I mean, I got to go with the classic Roundtable. It's kind of the classic. It's the OG, and it's a great one. So I'd go with if you're looking for Masonic one in particular, I'd go with Roundtable. Uh, First Three Knocks is good, but First Three Knocks, I tend to listen to my podcast almost exclusively through YouTube. So First Three Knocks, I think all their stuff is off YouTube now, or their new stuff is off YouTube. So no, I appreciate the question. I absolutely appreciate the question. All right, so I'm going to end this poll. So let's start with the main topic for today, which is building an online community. And I want to do this poll question, and there is no right answer to this, obviously. Just give me a second to write this out. Active and engaged Masons. And honestly, core, anybody watching this may, because you have your own communities, uh, and you may have some of the same either issues, thoughts, concerns, successes, failures in terms of creating a online community. And if you want to share those, I'd love to know that as well. I'm going to talk about some of my, what I view as being successful, failures, combinations of the two, all of that good stuff, um, and where I'm kind of. All right, I'm going to have to. So first, I'm going to start this poll. Secondly, I'm going to share another screen. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can't grab a. All right, here we go. I'm going to use a Word document for this. Word. Dun, dun, dun. Come on. Just got to get this thing set up, and it's being kind of a pain. Come on. 2, 3. All right, so we're going to divide this up into 4 sections when it comes to building an online community. All right, so let's finally get around to sharing this screen. It took me a second there. Sorry about that. Which one do I want to get rid of? All right. Share. Got this Word document up so I can make notes as I go. So, building a strong foundation. So, today's, like I said, topic is going to be Freemasonry and creating digital or online communities. I think when it comes to Freemasonry, there is a lot of potential space available in the online world and digital world to create communities. And we actually did see this, and we saw this be very successful, in my opinion, during COVID. You know, I'm not going to pretend that super happy, wonderful time. It was not, for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, it was very challenging, but there were some silver linings, in my opinion, in the very challenging experiences of COVID. And one of them, at least for Freemasonry, was it forced Freemasonry to try to create and develop a digital or online footprint. And you start to see Masonic lodges embrace the digital space in a way that they had never done before, because during COVID, for many jurisdictions, in-person meetings were suspended. And some of the advantages that you start to see of in-person, of digital meetings or virtual meetings is, first, members who could not attend in person due to either they may have been ill themselves or may have had mobility issues or may have moved away from the lodge and just moved too far to visit in person, or any other number of reasons, could once again take part in Masonic experiences and Masonic fellowship. Yes, it was through a computer screen, but it was better than before when they weren't able to do it at all, or at least weren't able to visit in person. It also made for visitation. It also made visitation much simpler because I could visit a Masonic meeting of a lodge that was located in, on Monday, I could be virtually visiting a lodge that met in St. Louis, Missouri. And on Tuesday, I could be visiting a lodge that met in Dallas. And on Wednesday, England, and Thursday, Romania. You could actually travel around the world, again, just with the touch of an internet connection or a modem. And so that was another benefit. You saw the increased ability to visit, and then you also saw the ability to bring in guest speakers that you otherwise would not have had. Um, I took a lot of pride in the work I did to organize our Masonic virtual meetings, um, especially because we had guest speakers coming in from so I'm in Windsor, Ontario, which is Canada. We had guest speakers from Scotland, we had guest speakers from Missouri, we had guest speakers from Romania. We had about to sneeze, excuse me. We had guest speakers in from Manitoba, Toronto. Aside from just about to sneeze, aside from just the guests themselves and visitors, we also were able to bring in actual speakers, do presentations, and again, we could share our screens so they could actually do a presentation, talk about pieces of Masonic history, or we had a guided meditation. But that was combined with the ability to bring them in. And in my opinion, I've said this before, but the smartest thing that we as Freemasons in Ontario did, or our Grand Lodge did, is it said for the virtual and online meetings, we weren't able to do ritual, which meant we didn't have to tile the meetings, which meant we could have guest speakers be brought in who weren't Masons themselves, but who had Masonic information or just information that Masons would find of interest. Right. And so all of those things, I think, combine to create some really special and really, really unique and vibrant online or digital communities. The other really cool and beautiful thing about the communities or the online meetings is you could use them as a way to support your local economy. One of the things I did for the online meetings that I was most proud of is we did a virtual beer and cheese night. So this was during one of the more this was during, I believe it was the third lockdown that we had in Ontario, where again, small businesses were basically, if you were like a restaurant, you could not have anybody eating in your restaurant. Everything had to be done by takeout. And what we did is we contacted a local brewery, Chapter 2 Brewery, which was great. And we organized a virtual beer and cheese tasting, which was a lot of fun. And what it was is the brewery created these packages it was like 3 beers with 3 different types of cheeses and 3 different types of meats and a few other like special gifts and prizes and stuff. And put the packages together. You had to, I think the package cost like $25. But you would purchase one of these packages, and you could either pick up the package itself, or somebody would deliver it to you. And then at our virtual meeting, you would come on, we had the virtual meeting. Everybody would have their package with them that they pre-purchased, and then we had the chapter 2 brewing on the meeting, and they went, okay, open your package. This beer is, the beer that's labeled A goes with this cheese, this type of meat. This is how we brewed the beer. This is why we paired it with this cheese. This is why we paired it with this meat. And they went through each tasting, right? So the brewing company was able to make a little bit of money during a time when they were stopped and shut down from having in-person dining. And so it helped them out. It gave our brethren something interesting to do, because, again, they were all shut down as well. So they wanted that fellowship, and it gave them something interesting to do and to see. And it allowed us, we also brought in non-Masons, but guests and visitors to take part in it as well, because again, it wasn't tiled. And so those things were all incredibly special. So, and we did that a second time with whiskey tasting. So, the power of an online community, again, just to go through this kind of quickly before I start talking about some of the challenges I faced, but the benefits of an online community is, one, from a Masonic perspective, it allows Masons who cannot attend in-person meetings to still take part in Masonic activities. 2, it allows to bring in guest speakers at a fraction of the cost, or no cost at all, really. 3, it allows the support of local businesses. And community members. And 4, it allows for and creates and fosters a better and a friendly environment between Masons and non-Masons, right? So if you're not a Mason, but you want to learn more about it, but maybe you're not comfortable being there in person, or you don't want to travel to somewhere in person, learning more through a computer screen can be a more relaxed way to do so. And I agree, it was a great idea. I had a lot of fun doing it. We did it twice. We did it once with the beer and cheese, and then the second time we did it with a whiskey tasting, but it was the same idea. We created the packages, mailed them out. That was, again, supporting local whiskey producers. And that was also during the lockdown. So again, at a time when the economy was struggling, local businesses were struggling, we were able to hold an event that helped and supported our brethren and our local businesses. So that's why I think digital spaces are so important, why I think we as Freemasons need to continue exploring the digital spaces. But there is a challenge with creating digital spaces, and that is the first thing I wanted to talk about. I want to get your opinion on, and that's why I even had this poll question. What is the best target audience for a Masonic online community? And we can even use Square and Compass as the example of the online community. So defining your community's purpose and value, right? If I want to create an online community, I need to define its purpose and value. And what I've always said is the purpose of Square and Compass Promotions is to explore the many ways in which Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. That has always kind of been my purpose and my value, to explore the many ways in which Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, and to post content uh, that is of interest to Freemasons. The problem with that, though, is that gets into the second point, and the one that I've been challenged with the most: identifying your target audience and their needs. And that is something I've struggled with because I don't honestly know, and people can jump in the chat if they want to let me know. Like, what is the core audience even of Square and Compass Promotions? I've been doing this for a while and I still struggle with that. You know, because what the core audience is going to change, or what the target audience is going to change the type of content I produce, right? If my target audience is active or engaged Masons, right? If the target audience is active or engaged Masons, then the topics are going to be things like, what you need in a Masonic toolkit, or what is Masonic recognition, or how to be the best lodge officer, or Masonic fun lodge activities. Right? Those are all going to be topics that would be of interest if the target audience is active or engaged Freemasons. If the target audience is inactive or disengaged Masons, then the topics will be things more like getting back to lodge after a break, or how to deal with Masonic burnout, or what to do if you no longer enjoy Freemasonry. Right. And so you see, just even in those two things, active and engaged Masons, the topics are going to be what you need in a Masonic toolkit, what is Masonic recognition, how to be the best lodge officer, fun lodge activities, how to be a good mentor. It's going to be topics that will appeal to people who are already super active within the lodge anyways, but want to take that engagement to the next step and improve their Masonic experience. Versus if the target audience is inactive or disengaged Masons, then my topics will be getting back to the lodge after a break. So you've been gone for a while because you're disengaged and you're nervous about getting back, what you can do to get yourself back. If you're disengaged because of burnout, how to get back involved with Masonic burnout, or deal with that. What do you do if you no longer enjoy Freemasonry? how can you, if you're disengaged because you're busy with work or family, ways that you can stay engaged and active in your lodge even while juggling these other things, right? If your target audience is non-Masons who are curious, then your topics will be more along the line of, for example, debunking Masonic myths, history of Freemasonry, Freemasonry in the 21st century, um, charitable endeavors of Freemasonry, or even why I am a Mason. So if it's, the target audience are non-Masons who are curious and genuinely curious in a positive way, then it's, debunking Masonic myths, history of Freemasonry, Freemason 21st century, charitable endeavors. Why am I a Mason? So you end up with this kind of more generalized discussion around what is Freemasonry, um, and kind of maybe debunking some myths. And then if you get the non-Masons who are not curious, and when I say not curious, what I mean is they've made up their mind. They don't like Freemasonry. They're anti-Masonic even. Then the topic, again, you're going to get debunking Masonic myths, but in a more forceful way. How to why Freemasonry is good, what Freemasons believe in versus don't believe in. Cameron, are there any Masonic parks in the community? Not in Windsor, but there are Masonic monuments in parks in Windsor, and in many places there are. There's actually a Masonic park that was just built in Northern Ontario, or just I guess repurposed, built, pick your term. They put in a whole new jungle gym and all that type of stuff. So it was really, really cool. So yeah, what you see here again is this is the first challenge and core, like for your perspective when it comes to your online community. I would assume it's kind of maybe a similar thing because, do you create content that focuses on, let's say, newer people who are newer to the idea of meditation and spirituality, or do you create content for people who are already active in spiritual world or spiritualism or meditation, who have a strong background in it? Kind of, where do you and how do you target your audience? Um, and that is still something I struggle with because from an audience reach perspective, there are more non-Masons than Masons in the general population and in the target audience, or just there are more non-Masons than Masons in the world. And so part of me feels like my goal should be to target non-Masons who are curious because there's more of them. So I'll get a bigger audience, but also it's more generalized knowledge and that type of content. It's more general, so in some ways it's a little bit easier to do, right? I can just talk about debunking Masonic myths, the history of Freemasonry, um, charitable endeavors. It's a little bit less technically difficult to discuss, Whereas if my target audience is Masons, especially Masons who are engaged, but want to take their Masonic journey to the next level, that information I need is a little bit more technical. You're talking about things like recognition. What is a recognition? How Grand Lodges recognize each other? What are the landmarks? What are the modes of, what is the committee of recognition? Um, you're talking about things like officer progression and lineup and bylaws. And even when you talk about lodge activities, you have to talk about and keep in mind things like insurance and those technical aspects. So, with if the target audience is non-Masons who are curious, both you have a larger pool from which to draw, and you also are able to focus on more general information. If your target audience is Masons who are active and engaged, first, your audience is smaller because the number of active Masons is going to be the smallest possible audience compared to the others. And also, the information you're sharing is more technical, and requires a little bit more discussion or explanation. The other audience to keep in mind is the non-Masons who are not curious. In other words, the non-Masons who are anti-Masonic. Those ones can be challenging because they can bring up a lot of kind of foolish thoughts and ideas, but they also are the ones who tend to be the most engaged because they are convinced they know everything about Freemasonry and want to tell you everything that they know that's correct that you are wrong about. And so that kind of creates a very interesting dynamic as well. Yes, the target audience is a thing I think about the most. At this point, I do the whole gamut of what I have to offer, yet I focus on people just starting. I feel the curious is my audience. Those developed don't necessarily need my guidance, yet those curious can be overwhelmed with information and find comfort in having a hand of support. So that's a really good point to keep in mind as well, right? I think what Core is saying is probably this is a challenge that I suspect um, every online audience to a certain extent feels, right? Which is that balance between getting getting the people who um between attracting the curious who are going to be in every situation the bigger audience, right? There's going to be more non-musicians than musicians. There's going to be more non-meditators than meditators. Like that's always going to be how it works, non-Masons and Masons. Um so targeting them because there's more of them, um because you also have more to offer them versus the people who are well developed in the craft. They may not need as much guidance, and so therefore that target audience is less. I mean, for me, it's still something I struggle with the most, and honestly, I'm still at the stage where I'm trying to attract almost everybody. I try to have a balance of topics between the topics that will be of interest to non-Masons versus the topics that will be of interest to active Masons versus the audience that will be most interested versus those Masons who are disengaged because I don't want to forget about them. Sometimes I think we in Freemasonry, so much of our emphasis and our communications is either on um, our own members who are showing up regularly or non-Masons who are interested. We forget to speak to those Masons who aren't engaged anymore, but are still paying their dues about getting them back engaged once again and why it's important for them to be engaged. So I think that's a really interesting and valid point that Core brings up. So from there, we talk about choosing the right platform and tools. And so I'm going to switch. Interesting enough, what is the best target audience for Masonic online community? Active or engaged Masons is 1 vote. Non-Mason or curious is 3 votes. Certainly, the largest target audience will be the non-Masons who are curious. Cameron, how would you describe inviting people without feeling desperate to do so? Um, that's a good question. And I think that kind of goes into what we're talking about. Excuse me, one second, ask this next question. I'm going to start this poll because after we've found our target audience or thought about our target audience, your next question is, where do we find them? YouTube. I mean, there's other options you put in the chat. How would you describe inviting people without feeling desperate to do so? I mean, look, you never. Um, um, I think, look, it's always going to be, if desperation, and I'm trying to think of the right way to put this, can be the biggest like turn off for anything, any group, right? If it seems like if you're desperate for me to join something, I'm going to start asking questions as to why you're so desperate. Is it because your organization is failing and you desperately need either my presence to bolster your numbers or my money to bolster your finances? Right? If you're desperate in that sense, that can be a challenge. Although sometimes you may legitimately be desperate. I mean, I would say, look, just be honest with people, right? Like, if your lodge is struggling and you really need people to join and you really need people to pay their dues, or you need new revenues, then you can be honest with people about that and say to them, look, this is Freemasonry, I love Freemasonry, but also our lodge is currently struggling. We really need to bring in new people and new revenues, and so that's why we're kind of pushing for you to join quickly. um I think is always a good idea as a general rule. But I think the best way to is just not to be desperate, right? Like, just, and that's why Freemasonry has always had this prohibition or this disliking of what we would call, um I'm trying to think of the term, improper solicitation, right? So you can talk about Freemasonry, which I do all the time. You can talk about why you love Freemasonry, which I do all the time. You can talk about why Freemasonry is something so important to you, but you should never be telling somebody, they have to join to get X or to get Y or to get something special, or harass or hound them into joining. They should be joining. They should be joining out of their own desire and interest, not out of somebody else's desperation. And so I think just telling them why it is you love Freemasonry, what it is that you think is special about Freemasonry, um, and what makes it special for you. And I always tell people, if you ever get to a point where they're trying to rush you through or rush you to join, or they seem that they're desperate for you to join, it may not be the best lodge to join, or it may be clandestine. That's always possible as well. Usually a good way to test if they're desperate is if they start making you promises about lots of money or this or that. It's not good. I hope everybody is doing well. We have got interesting enough. So far, 4 votes, all 4 saying YouTube. Though Dad's saying tough for me to answer, not comfortable on a computer. That's a good point as well. I mean, it seems like for people who aren't comfortable on a computer, YouTube is kind of the default. People do tend to fall off, although they may stay supportive to the overall cause. Engagement wisdom can be invaluable. Certainly, if they do fall off, one of the things you need to check about is, or ask about, is why. Although you need to also remind them there's lots of ways, just because they are maybe busy or whatever it is with life, that doesn't mean that um, they cannot themselves find ways to stay involved and active. And I talk about that on streams, right? Why, even if you're not able to make a meeting in person because of work or family commitments, you can still stay engaged with the lodge, such as, for example, paying your dues on time, giving regrets, maintaining communication, etc., etc. Here's what I'll say. One of the best things you can do is, even if you're not active and involved in your lodge because you're busy, paying your dues on time or early is a huge way to stay engaged and keep supporting your lodges. So then you get into this idea of developing interest and informative content. That's the hope, Courtney, right? That's kind of the goal, is to develop interests and informative content that keeps listeners. The question is, which listeners are you trying to get back to the platform? Because again, you can say as many listeners as you can, but if you focus too much on one type of listener, if I focus too much maybe on content that will be of interest to non-Masonic listeners, so providing general information about, Freemasonry that will appeal to a non-Masonic listener, will that cause me to have less involvement or less interest from my Masonic listeners who maybe want more specific information about how to take their Masonic career to the next level or advance in the next level of their Masonic career? Um, and if I'm, never commenting on those who have maybe more negative views of Freemasonry, does that affect my ability to, does that turn the stream too negative because I'm constantly battling with conspiracy theorists and things like that? And they're less likely to focus on the more positives. And the people who like Freemasonry or want to talk more of the positive of Freemasonry, are they not going to show up, right? It's the target audience is really tough to figure out. Then we come into this idea of, with your target audience, choosing the right platform, because the target audience equals target platform. And this kind of goes to what Courtney's saying there. The type of audience I'm searching for is going to change depending on the platform that we're part of as well. So for example, if I want to build an online community through social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, the benefit of that is social media has a wide reach. It has a larger user base, it allowing for broad community building. So if it's easy access, right? It's free to join, and most people are already familiar with those platforms. It also provides a lot of different types of content formats. On Facebook or Instagram or X, I can post videos, I can post text, I can post pictures, I can post audio, and it's professional, can use it to brand. But by the same token, you're running into the cons, right? You have the lack of focus, because again, you have a wide base, you have a wide audience, which means you can talk about a lot of things in general, but it's hard to get specific. Um, Social media can be noisy and less focused on specific interests, potentially diluting community engagement. Also, again, the con is you're kind of at the whim of the algorithm. So if X, for example, if Elon Musk decides to modify the platform or modify the algorithm, like he said he was going to do I think it was a few months ago now, that can completely change who gets to see your platform and how and why, or who gets to see or access your online community. Then you get moderation challenges and privacy concerns. So, I would say, and this kind of goes to what Courtney was saying, right? To help, and we wouldn't say podcast, I'd say online community. If your online community audience is, or if my Square and Compass online community audience is more general, is non-Masons who are curious, social media platforms allow for a larger user base, allowing for broad community building, say audience base. But it is hard to provide specifics that's going to grow the audience, right? By the same token, if my online community target audience is active Masons, then Reddit or Discord provides for in-depth discussions and knowledge sharing with specific topics. So once again, you're seeing this challenge between building a community that is based on or building a community that is Masonic, that is, let's say Masonic and engaged in specific topics that are more narrow of interest versus a audience that is non-Masons and engage in topics that are more wider in terms of their base. I think both provide some very interesting and different ideas. So, and I know, again, Core, like for your perspective, I think I could be wrong. Like, do you find your audience changes based on, like, do you have the same people checking your stuff out on your YouTube as you have checking your stuff out on your other social media platforms? Or do you find that you kind of have the same audience, whether it's on your socials or on your YouTube, or do you pay attention to who's kind of checking you out in different locations? Because I find the audience I have on YouTube, it feels like the audience I have on YouTube is pretty specific. I find they don't always translate over to, for example, Instagram, social media, X, things like that. That's true. Most Freemasons probably want to relight that spark they had once for Freemasonry, so they depend. I hope so. And if they do, that's wonderful. I'm not the only platform by any means that people can do that. By any means, there are many other platforms which we keep that in mind. But I hope I do, and I'd be honored if I get the chance to do so. They are completely different groups of people from Facebook to YouTube. Those are the only two. Do you find that see, so I'm in the same boat. It seems to be different groups, and I'm trying to create more cross collaboration between the two. Even I'm trying to create more cross collaboration between my Square and Compass YouTube channel and my personal YouTube channel. Um, Although if you look, right, this YouTube channel here has about 2,020 subscribers. My personal YouTube channel has 178 because this is what I focus on, but I am trying to create more of a audience cross collaboration between the two. They're actually the same people. So I have, for me, it's more a situation where, at least in my stuff, it's I have a larger audience. So it's not that there's not similar people or the same people. Sometimes it's just this audience is so much bigger. And on socials, I definitely see different people showing up on my Facebook than I see on my YouTube, than I see on my X, than I see on my Blue Sky. Blue Sky being the newest. I am trying to combine the two, or not combine the two, but cross pollinate, pick your term, use because I do want to see my other kind of channels and stuff grow, certainly on Patreon, things of that nature. Which, by the way, I'll mention Patreon here, and that's the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to content that is could be paywalled, could be just you need to sign up for it. You know, are you seeing a difference in that? Because YouTube, you can subscribe for free. With Patreon, there are some different paywalls that can affect the audience and who's willing to stick around for that versus go on to different things, which I think is important to keep in mind as well. But that also creates its own challenges because it can be easy for people to subscribe to YouTube because it's free and then they are less likely to want to stick around. Or not like it's just they have no motivation to necessarily tune in because subscriptions was free, they can always check it out later, whereas with Patreon, if you're paying for something, you're more likely to stay active and engaged in it. One of the benefits of paywalling, perhaps. So those are just some of the, um, audience challenges that we face. Then you go on to I feel I present differently on each too. I'm more personal on my Facebook as I know those people better. On YouTube, I've noticed I can come off a bit impersonal. Hmm. Well, it's a really good point. Although I wonder if that's just the nature of the platform, right? Because um I mean the whole point of Facebook, going back to my uh, viewing of The Social Network, which is a great movie, by the way. The whole point of Facebook is you have to know the person to know, like, to get the friend. You have to kind of you have to be invited. You have to send a friend request. It has to be accepted. In theory, though, it's obviously not true. But in theory, even in the title, right? You're talking to your friends on Facebook. So or if you're talking to your followers, they're followers who came more than likely from your friends. So you're talking to your friends, so it's gonna make it feel more personal. Whether that's a real personal or not is a whole other can of tuna because obviously how we define friends, I don't think any platform has done anything to um change the definition of friendship or what a friend is more than Facebook. But in theory, you're talking to your friends. You know those people. You accepted their friend request. You invited them to follow. You know them, and so that's going to affect, at least psychologically, how you present. Whereas when it comes to YouTube, especially at the start, even with these, like when I hit that go live button, I have no idea who's going to jump on at first. I have a rough idea who my audience is, but this will be seen by many people who are not in the audience themselves, right? And so it impacts the audience. It also impacts how you talk. Until I see the first people in the chat, I'm not necessarily going to know the best way to proceed in terms of how to talk. Do I talk in a more informal, impersonal manner, at least until I see who's joined? I think that is a definite impact that you have psychologically. It's hard to I think on YouTube, at least at the start, speak in a personal way. And by the same token, it's hard on Facebook to speak in an impersonal way because in theory on Facebook you're talking to your friends and on YouTube you're talking to your audience. Um, Again, practically, what does friendship mean in the Facebook era? I remember, it's funny, years ago, I was one of the later users, adoptees, if that's the right term, of Facebook. Um, Again, I think I got my Facebook account in 2010, 11. I never really got it at first. But I remember I got it, and then I met somebody at, it was like a bar or something, and I became, I asked if they want to be friends on Facebook. They said sure. We became friends on Facebook. I saw them like a month later, and I remember I tried to strike up a conversation with them, and they were being kind of standoffish about it or whatever it was. Um, and I tried to figure out why, what was going on. I talked to my friends and my real friends, and they pointed out, yeah, she's not your friend. Just because you're friends on Facebook, that doesn't mean you guys are friends in real life. That's not how Facebook works. So, but nonetheless, I think psychologically there's that issue. There's that feeling you kind of get. Um, Interesting enough, everybody's still saying, "What is your favorite platform to build an online community?" YouTube, 100%. So, um, is it? Do you find the people who said YouTube and Cora, as somebody who's building an online community right now, do you find that you prefer YouTube because you're able to reach more people, or do you find the topics you discuss you enjoy them more? What is it about YouTube that kind of makes it your favorite? Enjoy the Irish stew. Please say hi to everybody for me. I hope you have a great time down in the common area, and I'll see you tomorrow, I would assume. So from there, we go on to the content creation, fostering conversation. So we're trying to figure out, so let's assume for the moment, defining your community's purpose and values, explore the ways in which Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, identifying your target audience and their needs. We talked about the different types of target audiences we could have, and then choosing the platform and tools. Excuse me, I got the hiccup here. Next part, content creation, sharing valuable, interesting, and interactive content. So what is the um right there, that's a three prong test there. What oops. What makes valuable, interesting, and what makes content valuable, interesting, and interactive? So interactive is probably the easiest one to answer there, right? It's, are you social? Can people respond? Can people jump in the chat? Can you do actual live discussions? All of that good type of stuff there. And so I think that, but then again, like, what makes it valuable? And again, I think it goes back to this idea of what is your target audience? Core, I like to build on topics YouTube works best for me. I also don't want to become a scroll demon for someone life, that has always concerned me. I'm not sure what that means, scroll demon. I'm curious. Can you let me know what? I've never heard that expression before. But I do get the idea of building on a topic. I also find YouTube works well to build on your topics over time. I think YouTube allows you to build and grow on topics, whereas with social media, it's harder because, again, and we talked about this with the type of platform is there's social media. There's so many different things being posted, so many things you can post. Like today, I posted about St. Patrick's Day. I posted about this stream. I posted about wrestling. So it's harder to build on one particular topic. Social media tends to be a mile wide and an inch deep, whereas with YouTube, I find it can be much more narrow, but much greater depth. Um, and it's much, or the opposite, to use the build analogy that Corey used, right? Social media is like, you're building a castle that's a mile wide but 10 centimeters off the ground, whereas with YouTube you can build a castle that's maybe 100 meters wide but 500 meters in the air, or something to that effect. Okay, scroll demon in simple terms is like when someone gets interested in certain TikTokers or Vines, and people will spend hours scrolling that person's videos instead of implementing the information. For me, it's direct conflict with That's a really interesting point, Core. I've never heard that before, but I like that idea a lot. And first of all, good for you, because there are some people who absolutely um it's unfortunate, but who absolutely will produce content, the purpose of which isn't necessarily to get the audience to engage with the information or to give them any useful information or to give them anything useful. It's just to get them to keep on scrolling from one, especially with YouTube Shorts, from one short to the next without sharing with them any information. So, or anything useful. So that's a really, really valid point, and that is something you probably have to be extra careful of in this world, right? When it comes to Freemasonry, or not Freemasonry, when it comes to the online community, because the tempting thing can probably be to create content that again creates this consistent scrolling to rack up the views without remembering why you're doing it or what you're doing it for. What you're doing it for being to, in my case, share information about what makes Freemasonry relevant to the communities in which it's located. About to sneeze. My dad's gone, so I could use my sleeve once again. Oof. Just taking care of something here quickly. Here we go. Get in there. Thank you. And if my dad comes back on, I'm gonna say Cora gave me permission to use my sleeve to wipe my nose. So it's your fault. Interesting. If we got a couple new votes in, we got 1 vote for Instagram, 1 vote for X, or 2 votes for X, 4 votes for YouTube. For the people who picked X or Instagram, let me know maybe why. Be curious to know what it is about Instagram or X you went with. Going back to what we were talking about before, what makes content valuable, interesting, and interactive? And again, valuable is going to depend on the target audience because, for example, valuable content for an active Mason to me would equal information about things like recognition, how to know if you're visiting a Masonic lodge that you're allowed to visit, um, how to be a good officer, how to, or activities that your lodge will enjoy. Or here's a really good way to look at it. Um, how to attract new members, right? That is going to be valuable information for a active Mason who wants to take his Masonic career to the next step, um, versus valuable to a non-Mason would equal how to know if the lodge is legit versus clandestine. What is Freemasonry? Possible benefits to joining, etc. I just hit the many. I just like many others advertiser services on Instagram. All right, Spirit. So there you go. So Spirit was the Insta vote. Very, very cool. That's good to know. Do you find a lot of success when it comes to advertising services on Instagram? Do you find you get a lot of good response and good engagement? Actually, like Core, a really good example of what I'm talking about, and you know, your episode, I think that you did with me is a good example of it because talking about how to bring meditation into a Masonic lodge or how it can benefit or be of value to Freemasonry, um, that obviously is going to be of value to that target audience is going to be people who are already Masons and particularly active Masons looking to make an impact in their lodge and grow the lodge or do something that will be of benefit to the brothers. The target audience for that episode probably isn't going to be people who aren't Masons themselves because they're not even Masons yet, so they're not at the stage where they're interested in what can be brought into a Masonic lodge, right? For them, but maybe if you know their interest in the will be more about spiritualism in general, or that general information, as opposed to the specifics of how to bring spiritualism into a lodge or meditative practices or meditation into a lodge. So the target audience is going to change again based on, or the information is going to change based on the target audience, right? For me, for you, for our episode, I thought it was the most value for that episode would be specific to current Masons who want to bring something new and exciting to their lodge to grow their Masonic experience. It is so. Do you find so I'm guessing you advertise with videos on Instagram. Actually, what's your Instagram account? I don't know if I follow it or not. If I don't, I'll follow it. If you want to check mine out at Square and Compass Promotions, Square underscore and underscore Compass underscore promotions. And to the people who picked X, I'd be really curious to know how you find your engagement on X or your platform to build an audience online community. Uh, And then fostering conversation. encouraging participation and interaction. Again, I hope I'm able to do that through these streams when it comes to things like responding to people in the chat, using polls. I always find I have better luck getting people to join if and when I have some type of online poll um, at the start of the chat, at least to get people interested. Um, and actually, Core, another question for you, if you're still floating around out of curiosity. For Black River meditation, I'm curious, do you find there's a tension at all between putting out content, the purpose of which is to retain your current audience, versus putting out content, the purpose of which is to try and get a new audience or gather a new audience? I'm just curious if you find there's a difference between the two. Constant balancing act. It's like moving forward without getting too far ahead sometimes. Yes, I think that's a really good way to put it. No, I would agree with that 100%. I think, that kind of reminds me a lot of the whole idea of like, I am the leader, so or what's the expression? The people are going that way, so I must follow them for I'm their leader. Like you're trying to part of creating an audience. I do think part of creating an audience is trying to somehow be a leader to that audience while also listening to them and kind of following the direction they want you to go. But if you move too far ahead of them, they may go their own way, and then you kind of have to rebuild that audience from scratch. So do you have any advice as to how you try to find that balancing act? And honestly, this would be potentially of benefit for Freemasons as well, to be honest, because um, I know a lot of Masonic lodges, one of the biggest things they struggle with is trying to both find new members while retaining the active membership they already have. And I'm not saying even I know what the answer is, to be perfectly honest, but I'd be curious if you have any thoughts or ideas. Yes, sir. Completely agree. If we're going to lead, we should never lead wayward. I think you hit it on head often. Open communication and creating space for the conversation. I think, which is, in my opinion, absolutely kind of the key. Spirit, if you're still there, I do know sometimes you listen to this while working, so if you can't answer, no worries. But I would be really curious to know, like I said, how your advertising goes on Insta. I find people have been with me on the channel the past year, very supportive of new people and encourage me to make specifics when they are inspired. Good. Well, that's good, and that's what you want, right? Hopefully, that's what you can get is your people to be to be supportive in that way and to be part of the stream. And also to be welcoming for new people, and that's one of the great things I think about this community, and Courtney is a great example of that, as are other people, is always being welcoming to new people joining the stream, which is always great to see. I think for me, I do try to find a balance between making sure I'm communicating with my core audience, including those people on Patreon, things like that, while also making sure as much as possible that I can uh, attract new members. You know, the danger I think of that can be like if I have a brand new audience member who knows nothing about Freemasonry and they start asking me questions about the history of Freemasonry, things like that. If you're if you are a if you are a longtime member, for example, or you've been on the audience for a while, and I'm coming in and I'm talking about what is Freemasonry to a brand new audience member, is that going to eventually turn off my longtime audience members who have already heard me talk about this, ad nauseum, or will they kind of sit through? That's why one of the reasons why what I try to do, again, I try to spend that first hour of a new stream just talking in general and just answering general questions. And then I switch to my main topic about an hour. And the reason is I figured that first hour that gives a chance for brand new members to come and join. Um, and ask those general questions that the longtime audience members may already know the answer to and may not be interested in. And that way they can jump on at the 45-minute to an hour mark and come for these specific topics that they haven't heard before. Because I don't want to become a situation where I'm letting, I'm boring my longtime audience by answering, the same questions that they have heard many, many, many times. It is indeed welcoming to have a friendly hello. So that is a great, awesome part and wonderful part of the stream. Um, in the meantime, I hope everybody is doing well. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. Hope everybody is doing well. We're one like away from 10 likes, and we are one subscription away from 2020. So if you want to hit that like and subscribe button. Courtney mentioned above, I choose YouTube more of a solid platform for me, at least. I think YouTube is definitely the OG solid platform. I tried doing stuff on Twitch here and there, but I find the same thing. Uh, YouTube is far, far better. Creating a sense of belonging, growing trust, and sustaining strategies for attracting new members. So, going on, what are some strategies for attracting new members? Obviously, A big strategy is, again, how you advertise. But one thing I do try to do is pick different topics that I think can be of interest. Again, depending on the audience and advertising that. I will try to go and do YouTube search, or not YouTube, but Google searches where I check different search terms. So, for example, even what I do is I'll go to X, I'll go to Explore, and I will see what is trending. What are people checking out? What are people interested in? What's trending on social media? Like right now, St. Patrick is obviously trending on social media, so it might be worth sharing on my YouTube or sharing on my socials what different Masonic lodges are doing for um, St. Patrick's Day. Even something as simple as a social media post, or it can be something as advanced as a St. Patrick's Day dinner or dance. I must admit, I've been talking about Mason and Cameron's YouTube podcast. Okay, so you got first. Your first were interested in it through the square and compass picture, which I'm glad. I'm glad that picture was created by a good friend of mine. Called Prince, who's a graphic designer. So square and compass symbol with the and in the middle. I'm very fond of that myself. Do you think attracting new members could be as easy as doing what you love? If you do what you love, I do. So I do think it could be as easy as doing what you love. I think oftentimes, like I think that is where it starts. Is it is far too easy to forget, and I think that's probably one of the dangers. I'm trying to think of how to say this. Give me 1 second to see if I can say this correctly. Um, when you're trying to do something, then how do I say this? When you're trying to do something important and big, like you're trying to build an online community, for example, you're trying to build an online audience. Even if it starts off being the thing that you love, talking about Freemasonry, it can very easily become a slog, right? It can very easily become the thing that like is challenging for you um to resolve, or like is it every day you're doing this, every day you're live streaming, you have to think of a new topic, and it's if you forget why it is you love the thing you're doing, then you're going to get burnt out, and then the audience will see that and see you're not genuinely enjoying it anymore because it's such a burnout. You have to, yeah, when the love becomes a chore, so you have to, we talked about this with High Altitude Investing or Wisdom in Christ Foundation podcast a little bit. You have to remember what it is you love about what you're doing, right? you have to remember what it is you loved about the what is it that you loved about not just the thing you're talking about, but the community itself, why you thought it was so important, right? Um why you wanted to do it, why you think Freemasonry matters, why you think it's important, all of that good stuff. Um, and so yeah, so I think that stuff is absolutely critical, absolutely important. Remember why you do. Remember the thing you love, right? And if it ever does become a chore, and the audience starts to sense that, then I worry the audience may start to turn away, because kind of like what Cora's saying, no one wants to be part of something if it's a chore, right? Like, people are busy, they have their own lives, they have their own things, they have their own chores to deal with. They don't have time. They're not going to sit there, and they don't want to sit there and deal with, like, whatever you're going through. So remember the thing that you love. Remember why it is that you're doing it and what it is you love about it, and your audience will pick up on that. And it's okay sometimes to get tired. It's okay to sometimes things become a chore, but don't ever let that get to a point where you're not enjoying it or you don't love it. Then maybe you need to take a little bit of a break or find a way. I do believe you can choose how you feel. I think oftentimes you can choose how you feel, both for the positive and negative, and you can choose to enjoy things or not enjoy things, or what it means to enjoy things. All that stuff matters, and all that stuff is important. um, but yeah, don't let the thing you love become a chore. Find the music in it. Find the thing you love. Not to get too sentimental, Cord, hope that made sense. I don't know if you've ever experienced something similar with maybe spiritualism or meditation, and how you got through that. I'd be curious to know. We are at the Thank you, everybody who's joined us so far. If you're just joining us, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. I am like a minute away from, or sorry, a minute. I'm one subscriber away from 2020 subscribers. So if you get the chance, I hope that you will hit the subscribe button. It would be wonderful to have you join or subscribe. That was beautiful. I've been through that, and you're right. I had to sit with myself, remember why I started and how it had changed, and willingness to navigate it. I've had to do it several times. I'm sure there will be several more. I'm sure there will be several more for all of us. Don't worry. We're all kind of there at the same time together, right? So it's challenging. And I don't necessarily always know what the answer is. But I admire that you keep talking about it anyway. There is never a problem, just solutions yet to be revealed. That is a very good answer. I like that a lot. So um, I support that 100%. I think that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think, well, I mean, I saw this. I don't know if again, if you do get the chance, want to follow me on Facebook. I like that what you said. I admire that you're talking about it anyway. There's never a problem, just solutions to be revealed. Um, that reminds me of, let me see if I can find it now. Let's see. It's a quote I saw that I liked that I shared on my social media. So let's see if I can find it. Da, 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 da. It was from Dank Memology, but let's see. It was what was the quote? Here it is. Hey, sorry for being so anxious earlier. I had no idea everything is going to be fine or everything was going to be fine. How many times do people out there in the world get super anxious only for absolutely no reason? All right. Well, I do believe this has been a great stream. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined. But I have to get ready for my meeting tonight. It's going to be a great one. And also maybe go for some St. Patrick's Day dinner. So we shall see. But thank you, everybody who has joined. And yeah, I think, like I said, I think when it comes to creating an online audience for Freemasons, the biggest things we need to think about and consider is first, who do we want this online audience to be for? Do we want it to be for active Masons who are looking to take their Masonic career to the next step? Do we want it to be for inactive Masons who are maybe not able to make it in lodge but still want a Masonic involvement somehow and are searching for another way to get that engagement? Do we want to make our online communities for non-Masons as a way to introduce them to Freemasonry, what it is, and to provide general information? Or do we want it to be for those people who are actually negative or opposed to Freemasonry as a way to potentially get them to reconsider their thoughts? And once we've determined what that target audience is, we then need to determine what platform is best to reach them on. The more general, the larger the audience. So if our audience is non-Masons who are just generally curious, which I think would be the biggest audience, then it seems like social media platforms, Facebook, X, are the best. Whereas if our audience is the more narrow, so for example active and engaged Freemasons, then it seems like almost even like a Reddit would be the best, where it's more allows for more in-depth discussions. We also want to think about as a part of that as well, what is the type of content we're producing, what would be valuable, interesting, and interactive. And again, it goes to the audience. Valuable, for the most obvious thing, valuable content for an active, engaged Mason would be how to grow and attract new membership to the lodge. Valuable information for a non-Mason would be how to approach a Masonic lodge and how to know if the Masonic lodge is legit, right? That's different types of information, but it's valuable depending on your audience. And then you also want to, as part of that, think about how you can find that balance between your new Masonic, your new audience members, attracting new members to the online community, how you bring them in and then get them involved in Freemasonry, versus by the same token, how you don't want to focus so much time on attracting new audience members, you forget about your OG members or your current audience. You need to find that balance. You need to find welcoming people in your audience, like Courtney, who is always so welcoming of new people and new members in the chat, which is always wonderful to see. Right? That stuff is so valuable and so necessary. So I hope that you guys will keep just some of those things in mind, and maybe keep in mind what I talked about, just because you're doing something online, you can always, for example, take the time to host some type of virtual beer and cheese or whiskey tasting, where you can easily contact a local small business, small brewery, have them create beer and cheese packages, send them out to your audience online, especially if it's more of a local online audience, and then do a virtual beer and cheese tasting where the brewery comes online and discusses with you how it created the beer and cheese and wine packages, all that good stuff. There's a million things that you can do. And I hope that you guys will keep those in mind. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will have another live stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And then next week, we're going to be seeing some different live streams or different times, because I will be traveling. I can't wait to be traveling. I can't wait to be there, to be traveling to Winnipeg, Chicago. But that will mean my live streams will be at different times. I will let you guys know when the streams will be, what times. Check my social media for all that good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Spirit. I hope that you enjoyed some of the information. I hope it gave you some ideas. And I'll see everybody tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much.